Hello everybody, this is Bradley Scarf Piano here, and today I have another video about Wim Winters and an address about his videos on the incredibly insulting and rude way he addressed pianist Valentina Lisitsa, and one of his latest videos about Bach Scholar. First, just a quick note about what I believe Wim is going through psychologically. He's not in an enviable position. More and more people are going up against him, and I will link a few videos, including a very, very excellent video down in the comment section below. And I think he knows that. He knows more people are going up against him. His view count is steadily declining from his prime, which was a few years ago. As well as this, it's becoming clear we are witnessing him unravel. He is very desperate in generating views, and he's resorted to using Valentina Lisitsa, who is one of the finest pianists of our modern generation, as a way to get more views. And to be fair, he's using Valentina Lisitsa almost exclusively as a personal vendetta, because she is recording all 32 of Beethoven's sonatas this year, which must be a bit of a sore spot for Wim, as it coincides with his attempts to record all of Beethoven's works as well. As such, he felt quite inclined to state quite plainly that Miss Lisitsa was completely wrong, by using that phrase that she wasn't able to fix the great mistake of the Moonlight Sonata. It directly implies one of two things: either that Miss Lisitsa is not a good pianist and interpreter, and that she's incapable of making her own choices, or secondly, that Wim believes she is just following a standard set down by musicians with the so-called impossible section at tempo, because that's what her teachers taught her and that's what their teachers taught them. I mean, there are a multitude of things wrong with that claim. The first claim for that is that multiple pianists have recorded the piece at tempo with no breaks in that section. It's more than possible I could do it, although I haven't, because I haven't studied that piece for a long time. And I shall leave links to the performances who haven't done that down below as well. The second is, in the very video footage of that section, she's clearly taking her time with that section. It is not that she isn't capable of performing it any faster. She literally takes her entire hand off the keyboard, which you wouldn't do if you were racing. She takes her entire hand off the keyboard to let the music swirl and build. She chose to slow down at that point. A person struggling to play it at speed would never take their hands that far away from the keys at any given point. Thirdly is the way the notes are written. They are written very quickly, all to be tied down, more so that they're arpeggiated chords, but also with the fermenters at the very end, which probably implies a much looser feel with the tempos. You can hold it, you can pause it to allow it to build, which is what other musicians may have done. And perhaps it is more exemplified now than when it was initially written, because of the Romantic era and because of the development that music had, but it's certainly not an intention. It was certainly not in double beat intention, which is what Wim thinks. We never know what Beethoven's intention was there. Was it supposed to be for strict time? But it's unlikely. Many reports of Beethoven say that he would do embellishments like that, drastically changing tempo. However, that isn't the issue at hand presently and will be addressed separately. However, the drama that came forth was that Lisitsa replied to this video in the comment section. She clearly wasn't impressed with how she was being used as a benchmark for the incorrect performances. And she brought up a question that time and time again has been asked. I've asked it, I've even calculated it. It's the length of the famous 1808 concert on the 22nd of December. She quite rightly states the entire concert would have been over 8 hours with the double beat interpretation. And I shall do a video on the 1808 concert soon if you guys would like it. She also remarked how Wim did not ask permission to use her videos and use her as an example, and did threaten copyright strikes. Wim retaliated by replying about fair use and how he would like an open discussion with Valentina, but he didn't actually answer her question, which is a growing trend with everything Wim has done. Wim's response video, which he made a few days later, was an absolutely disgusting showcase of arrogance and narcissism. In that video, he remarks on a joke about how he looks like Tom Cruise, which, fair enough, fun. But far more shockingly is he proceeds to insult Valentina Lisitsa far more than anything else. He spends the first half of a 20-minute video talking about absolute nonsense about how unfairly he is treated. He starts mocking Lisitsa's comment by putting her through a voice synthesizer, not actually seriously looking at what she has to say. Then he claims he didn't take a comment personally. Let's not kid ourselves, of course he did. He's saying that to save face and try and take the heat off the fact he made an entire video dedicated to trying to insult Lisitsa personally. He then tries to ask why she felt it so personal as to reply to his video in such a way. The answer is painfully clear, and that is she hated the fact that Wim was using her as the go-to example. Not once, not twice, but 3 times he singled her out as the beacon of incorrect tempi. The first video he did about that was on Chopin's Etude 10 number 12, which is going to be my second video in my series of debunking, and that's utterly factually incorrect, because the speed he calculates is completely wrong. And that's why she takes it so personally, because it's an attack. It's not just an attack on her, it's an attack on her style of playing, brand, and the fact that he is just attacking her as a musician, which he claims not to do, but he does all the time. However, there is more to the video, and this is where I find it personally truly disturbing. He proceeds to analyze Lisitsa based on her interviews and assumptions about her childhood, and it's really disrespectful behaviour, attempting to make Lisitsa look like the victim of a system. Despite there being multiple videos of her discussing how she was very steadfast in playing her way when she wanted to, especially when it came to composers like Rachmaninoff, Wim tries to paint her as the victim of a system that forces her to stay up practicing 12 hours a day to stay on top of her game to a bloodthirsty audience that want nothing more than to see athleticism and spirit, forgetting one very crucial thing Lisitsa said in the interview he said on his channel, and that is she practices for fun. Very few other musicians have that mindset where they practice their instrument for fun just because they love it so much. It's a truly unique perspective. I wish I had that perspective with practicing my instrument. And it's likely that the great virtuosi of the time, so Mozart and Beethoven and Liszt and Czerny and Chopin, they all shared that motivation as well because they truly love their music. But if that was the case, especially with Liszt and Czerny also practicing 10, 12 hours a day, why would she be so much better than they are capable of playing? According to Wim's theory, he suggests a cap on virtuosity until the 20th century, which is blatantly false. Beside the point here, as I will address it later, what Wim is trying to do is make her choice of tempi look like it was forced upon her, that she didn't choose that she had to do that in order to stay with the system and the bloodthirsty audiences. His assumptions of her childhood as well, and how she treats music just to placate the audiences, is also pathetic. She's been on record multiple times explaining how she loves what she does, how she loves the performances one gives, and how she doesn't play for herself. How she doesn't play for the audience, she plays for herself. One only needs to look at how she performs the Beethoven sonatas, in particular the final movement of Sonata number 18, which, in my personal opinion, and clearly hers based on her expression, is pure joy and fun. It's an absurdity to say otherwise. That it's just the most insulting thing Wim could have done. I have no doubt if Lisitsa wanted to, she could play the opening of the Hammerklavier at tempo, but it's her stylistic choice to slow down. There is a brilliant recording by a pianist called Igor Levit, who does play the Hammerklavier at tempo, which is referenced to a digitally sped up version, and his recording is brilliant. It's amazing. I have no doubt that she could have played that fast if she wanted to. Look at her recordings of Rachmaninoff. She's clearly one of the best pianists of this generation. Wim then finished the video by proclaiming that the rewrite of Takt und Penderschlag will change the musical system. Spoiler alert, if this book is anything like Wim Howe puts forth his evidence in his videos, it will be incorrect, littered with contrivances and fallacies, and will be binned like the rest of the musical world did with Talsma and the original book when it was initially published. As proven how I cannot find any place to purchase it on any platform, and you can't find the original Taktus Penderschlag anywhere, no matter where you look. I can't find it. If you can find it, please feel free to leave me a link below. Wim then finished the video by proclaiming, Wim's legacy will be failure, and that isn't a nice place to be. As proven in his latest video, he's lashing out at anyone who dares criticize him, except of course myself, Pianopad, or Fafner, and I wonder why. I do hope he does a video on me. That would be quite exciting. If you guys could potentially convince him to do that, I'd really like that. But regardless, his next target was a YouTuber known as Bach Scholar, or Cory Hall, who attempted to refute the double beat theory through logical thought in his own musicology. The big flaw with his plan is that the proponents for double beat are not logical. Wim used Cory to send cheap shots at Cory himself. I will admit, Cory did not make the strongest claim. Almost certainly why Wim targeted him and not anyone else, such as Piano Pat or Fafner. As I said earlier, as I said earlier. It was systematic. However, ironically, he also cemented, in my opinion at least, that Wim is indeed a sort of cult leader. He's belittling his opposition from a position of power because, as we know, people are shadow banned upon that channel. I can't comment on Wim's channel anymore at all. I think my comments are all either immediately deleted or just removed. And he's belittling his opposition. Because of that, he can't be directly challenged on his own site. And that's problematic. And an analogy like this goes, well, not yet. It's because he can't be challenged on his problematic position. It shows that he is unwilling to face the potential criticism. He was refusing to directly contact me. I've sent direct messages to Wim asking for communication. I've never had anything back. And it's the problem with, because he's spreading his ideas unchecked, it's a sort of thought like this. An analogy goes as follows. You might not have an issue with a person who supports flat earth theory. However, if that person started teaching flat earth theory to your kids, then you might have an issue. And I certainly would have an issue with a self-appointed scholar who is teaching people a bogus theory that clearly has no weight, which is why it was dropped when it was first circulated in the 70s by Tausmer, especially in the hands of a narcissist whose sole goal is to try and spread his word and expand his brand, which is why he silences any criticism and refuses to participate in an actual debate with real musicologists. He runs from every encounter, either banning the people who ask the questions or simply refusing to answer them, especially in the case of Lisitsa, where a lot of people noticed, which is why a lot more people have started making videos against him. He will either mock them, proclaim that he has the absolute truth, or do a combination of all that. And this is where it's really quite concerning, and why I have started producing the pseudo-double beat interpretations of certain works, which I know Wim will stray away from, at least for a while. However, it's starting to worry me. The recent release of the 1812 Overture by Wim was, in my opinion, a complete travesty. Anyone who knows anything about music should immediately notice that there is something inherently wrong with it. The singing lines are very, very difficult to sing, as pointed out by multiple people whose comments have then since vanished. The Russian national anthem, which is a staple in that piece, has also completely disappeared when it was a critical melody, which one would think that a national anthem would be recognisable, unless all national anthems have doubled in speed. I know they haven't. If all national anthems have doubled in speed, then that would be absurd, but we know they haven't, and we know that the national anthems have stayed the same, especially in my country, the UK, for centuries. In fact, Beethoven did variations on God Save the King, Paganini did variations on God Save the King, and it's played the exact same way it's sung. So unless he's referencing that every single national anthem sped up as well, the 1812 Overture is just impossible. Tchaikovsky is just impossible in general. We have recordings of people who played Tchaikovsky's piano concerto, as well as other pieces, and especially think of one of the most famous Tchaikovsky pieces is Swan Lake. Just listening to his Swan Lake, you know it can't be a double beat piece. The melody would just disappear, it would lose that inherent beauty of that flowing motion. So it's just, I'm sorry, Wim, you're not going to change the world. Your book won't change the musical system. People will either look at it as a novelty, or it will be debunked within a few days of it coming out. I'm sorry, Wim, it's just not there. Thank you very much for watching if you managed to stay to the end. I appreciate how it turned into a rant at the end there. But thank you very much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, please like and subscribe, and please check out my other videos, including my pseudo-double beat interpretations of the Beethoven's Third Piano Concerto, as well as some of my own compositions. And I would appreciate if you subscribe, because I have a few important compositions of my own in the works, and I'd appreciate if you had a look at my other videos. Thank you very much. I'll see you again soon.